What's going on, everybody? Garrett Brown from the Nice Flippin' Choice channel, back again with another glamping gumbo video for your soul. I'm expanding my glamping project even more after the success of my out of this world geodome. I'm walking the land right now where I have 12 acres, and I have already decided what structure I'm going to put right here overlooking the creek. I already have commercial permits and everything in line. We just need to start the building process. One of the most critical pieces when designing your glamping site is figuring out what structures you're going to want to use. Now, I built a geodesic dome for my first structure that I ever built. I learned a ton about it. I could probably build more geodomes and really save money when I'm building for it, and I probably will build more in other places. The reason I decided not to do another geodesic dome, I believe the novelty will wear off when you have multiple of the same structures in the same area. If you have a really big site and you have a few of each, they're probably okay. I know having different types of structures will make my marketing easier. It will make my guest stay experience even better because they'll feel like they're in a very unique place, and they'll also be able to get more return guests. They'll have the option of going back to the place they stayed initially, or they'll be able to stay in some new places knowing the kind of a guest experience we will provide. I knew I wanted to build the crown jewel of my glamp site, but I also knew I wanted to add equity onto my place. Unfortunately, my geodesic dome doesn't add too much equity because most appraisers are not going to give it a very solid value because there's nothing comparable that they can compare it to. I will get some equity built up from the infrastructure I put in, commercial permits, other things like that some people that are hoping to buy later on may think that it is valuable, and an appraiser may as well. But for the most part, my geodome was really just more of a cash flow play. I knew I wanted something more stable of a structure, so I went between A-frames, tiny homes, shipping container homes. All these things kind of struck my fancy, and I was crunching numbers on them and trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. I stumbled upon a company called Ood that builds mirror houses, glass houses, whatever you want to call them. They call them mirror hotels. And for the price and everything that I already had set up, I knew that this was probably going to be my best idea going forward. All of the structures I was looking into were probably in between the $150,000 to $250,000 range when building, and that includes framing, material, labor, utilities, permits, and other things like that going into it. But I was able to stay on the lower side of about $175,000 that I will be all in. That leads me to my next suggestion when you are building your glamping site that you need to pay attention to. And my amazing demonstration that I'm going to point, hopefully my editor will help me out here. The very front of the house, I have 10 acres. At the very front of the place, I have my house that I'm actually renting out as a ranch house, but I lived in it for about a year with an owner-occupied loan. That's how I was able to buy this land for 5% down. All the utilities were up in the front. I went about halfway with my geodome. You can't really see it over there, which is kind of my point. I wanted to be private. I went about halfway with my utilities with my geodome. So I brought electric back that way, put the septic over there, and I put a water well over there. So it cost me a lot more up front getting my geodome running, but now it will be so much cheaper and quicker to run the water well this way, plug in my septic, which I did design when I was getting my permits to fit this second site. Plan ahead when you're dealing with septic tanks and try to tie in as many sites as you can and get that permitted up front. If you have to pay a little more to get a bigger septic tank, it's going to save you a lot of money in the end because you won't have to add multiple septic tanks. My electric company was able to tie into that pole. They're going to put an underground pole over here, a lot cheaper because they just don't have to go as far. I planned it that way so that way I could bite off chunks as I'm going across, don't have to spend a whole bunch of money because this is kind of the crown jewel of my land. I have my pond right back there that you'll be able to see, but if you can't, it's hard to see because this is camera. This is Huffman's Creek that kind of flows behind me, and I will have some B-roll and things going here. This is where I wanted the mirror house to sit and really be able to enjoy all the privacy over here. We're going to build a walking bridge over here that will have our Ood sauna that we are going to put, and an outdoor bath, some really cool events. I'm not going to walk over there right now though because the grass is really high, and I saw a lot of snakes in the last couple weeks just kind of roaming around, and I'm not about to get into that. Using those key points though of starting to build in the front and then gradually making your way back to the back of your land will help you tremendously in your costs with utilities and everything else going forward. Now, when I was picking contractors to help me with this, I've already went between a few different bids. I had 3 to 4 insured. They don't necessarily have to be licensed in Texas, but they really need an insurance policy if you're wanting them to hold up some type of structure that is going to hold weight. I'm going through a few bids now. I've had ranges from $15,000 to $30,000 for the deck work that I'm building. As you can see, that's a pretty big different range. There's a few different reasons why those came in at different ranges, and I need to note that when I'm looking at these bids and analyze them, try to get as much of a line item bid as you can. Some contractors aren't as willing to, just take some more work. If you get a contractor that actually can break it down a little bit by line item, they're probably going to be somebody that you want to do some work with, and they know how to deliver that feedback to the customer that they're dealing with. I'm still picking in between some of my contractors right now to decide on who I want to work with, but I've kind of narrowed it down and now I have a better idea of what the actual cost is going to be. My electric to run over here from about 400 feet was about $5,000. I built a roadway already that I will keep bolstering up about 400 to 500 feet. That was about $6,000. And we're going to have to trench the water well well and add the septic into it, which will be another probably $10,000 when it's all said and done for that. I'm looking at utilities, decking, all the extra things I'm going to add without including the tiny home and the sauna in itself. I'm looking at about $50,000 to $75,000. Now after that, like I said, I will be all in about $175,000 to $200,000 on this. We're expecting that this area is going to profit between $399 and $499 per night. We're expecting a 70 to 80% occupancy rate. Our geodome has been renting out for almost $300 a night, and we've been at about an 80 to 90% occupancy rate. That will vary slightly as we get more into the slower months of September, October, when people aren't traveling as much for vacation and summers and things. But I also am very confident in these things still booking out, because we're still booked out quite a bit, a few months in advance. And these aren't designed for kids and other things like that. This is designed for romantic couple getaways, small girls trips, small guys trips, things that people still will do all throughout the year as time goes on. Now, I've made quite a few videos on permitting and finding contractors that I will link below, so I didn't go into too much detail on how I figure out some of these different things. I will say some of the biggest hurdles I faced when getting this construction site set together was I needed a site design with the county commissioner. They wanted to see how everything was going to be laid out. They wanted to see parking. They wanted to make sure we had plenty of turnarounds for fire emergency vehicles. They also really wanted to make sure my septic was going to be tied in and I wasn't going to be throwing 4 to 5 septics all on my property. They wanted the least amount of septics as I could have on my property, is kind of how they framed it from the beginning. I probably have some wiggle room in there, but to get my commercial permits from both places very easily, I needed my architecture plans for the house. I needed the mechanical plans, electric, plumbing, those types of things. I needed a site design from a local architect, and I just needed to really present my plan going forward with how I was going to help their community, why it would be a really good idea to bring a permit for this type of structure here, and why glamping would be a great thing to have in their county and community. After that, it really came down to funding, as everybody else probably struggles with when building their glamp site. I was able to take out a small personal loan from SoFi Bank to cover some of these last cash things. I have about a 12% interest rate on that. I was able to get about $50,000. And most investors, you're probably going to end up paying them points and probably close to that 12 to 13% interest rate back. And there's no prepayment penalty with this either. So if I can pay it back in time, it will be nothing that I'll even be paying too much interest on. It's one of those operations that I know that the money invested and the interest rate I'm paying will be taken care of by the cash flow and the building of this property that I'm actually doing. Me building all this equity into it. I'll be able to cash out refi possibly on this place. I don't want to lose my low interest rate that I got in 2021, but it's something in the next year or two we might actually decide on, especially if interest rates come down, because we would like to get a lot of this cash out that we have already put into it so we can keep expanding our glamp sites. Now, this land hacking model was really made possible by being able to do that 5% owner occupied loan on the ranch house. If you're looking to start your own glamp site and you have the ability to move into a new place that you will stay on at least for a year, that's what the loan terms call for, you can get into some of this land for as low as 5% down with a decent house that will be lended on, and you'll have good equity built up, but you also will be able to build cash flowing structures that some of them will have equity as well. If you build a tiny home, there's a better chance you'll be able to add equity to your land as opposed to a geodome, because there's just not many comparables over there. But that's the risk I was willing to take, because I know I still do not have much competition in my geodome area, and I've had tons of bookings that I know that I made the right decision with my cash flow basis. But now I need to really maximize this equity that I'm building. It's one of the really cool ways I designed my site and have been able to pop up all these pictures that have been coming up is I used Fiverr for about $300 to $400 to get some interior renders, exterior renders. I had to work with a couple different people. One of them was a little bit better than the other one, but Fiverr has really good rendering services. It's kind of amazing. They actually have tons of services that would really shock you. Once we add another cash flowing structure, this plate, we're going to be able to get close to that 10K profit per month that we're looking for between all the places that we have on here. It's been a long process in the making, but it's been going great. I really appreciate all you glamping gurus and short-term rental savants checking in with me as always. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, leave a comment, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Let me know if you have any questions. Peace!